Welcome to Unit 2. What we're going to be talking about in Unit 2 is intermediaries. That's a funny word, but what it basically means is the people in the business who, in the old days, went between the artist and the record label or the promoter who put on tours like AEG or Live Nation. They include everybody from managers who are sort of the top of the heap, though you have to remember they work for you. And then the person the manager oftentimes hires, which is the agent, also known as the booking agent, publicist. And these days, a publicist can actually be involved in sales. All of these people are really considered sellers of the artist. And we're going to break things down into buyers, sellers, and crew. And we'll talk in this chapter about our first crew member. And that first crew member is a lawyer. Technically, they work for you, though in some cases, you will find some places where the lawyer is what you might call your representative. In fact, you might even sign a contract to them. This is a very dicey area because you want to be really careful of that because there's a thing called conflict of interest. You can talk about this concept, but it's pretty simple. The basic idea is that the lawyer is looking out for themselves, and the lawyer is also supposedly looking out for you. And technically, in this kind of a relationship, it's usually what's called, quote-unquote, adversarial. So if a lawyer is representing you, and yet you have a contract between yourself and the lawyer, there can be some problems. So all of this is discussed. You're going to be doing Passman's. Your chapters are 2 through 6, and these will take you through all of them. Don't spend much time worrying about the business manager. A business manager is basically your accountant. But the thing about a business manager is you're going to need to get pretty far in your career before you need one or want one. They're invaluable once you get there. I mean, really, literally, this is the person that makes sure your taxes are paid. But we're going to go into, when we get into some of the very last chapters in this thing, we're going to talk about basic taxes you're going to have to deal with before you ever start, getting intermediaries involved, getting a team involved. Passman calls it your team. But oftentimes these days, you don't get a team until you've gone out and created enough success where you don't need it. And this is the realization of the new digital age. The fact is that, as you've seen when we looked through all of that material on the recording business, on the record business, basically it's a business of pennies now, where it used to be a business of dollars. Money is being made basically by live performance. That's where the big cash cow is. We'll see how long that lasts, but that's where it is. So, and that's the one group of people that are hiring people. Promoters like AEG Live Nation, Soda Jerk around here, Telluride, Planet Bluegrass. All those folks are actually hiring music business personnel. It's a very cool thing. So if you're looking for a job in the music industry right now, that is one of the places you'll find it. So I'm kind of drifting around by a lot of different subjects, but what I want you to do is really concentrate on chapters 2 through 6 to get a really good idea, and just don't spend that much time on the business manager. Understand the concept. They're an accountant. They're very, very different than your manager, who is the hub of the wheel and the person that's going to be especially negotiating. Boy, is that the most important part. There's a great artist, very famous artist, who will remain nameless, who's a dear friend, and he's very funny because he's always broke. And he has a manager who can't negotiate a deal to save his life. So he winds up doing a whole lot of gigs that are for a great cause, for really good reasons, but not for money, or not for enough money to make it worthwhile. John McEwen said when I had him into class, and he was the founder of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, he talked a little bit about the idea of, getting paid $30,000 for a gig or $50,000 for a gig, which is the kind of money they command. They can command $100,000 or $150,000 a gig. But that if your manager's getting 15%, which is typical, and your agent is getting 10%, which is pretty typical, and you've got any kind of crew and all of that stuff, it can take your expenses to about 60%. So if you're talking about a, roughly $100,000 gig, that means the band only clears $40,000 for that gig. And if you got a 4-piece band, you cleared $10,000 a piece. Now, that sounds fantastic, I know, but when you're talking about that kind of lifestyle that a major musician, somebody in a band like the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, has created a pretty expensive lifestyle for themselves. They now have a home, they have a mortgage, they have a lot of other things going on. They have kids in college. These are older musicians. That $40,000, that $10,000 they take home doesn't go very far. It doesn't last very long. You can make more money basically as a cabbie than you can doing that kind of a gig. So these are issues that all are important, and the manager is the top of the food chain. If the manager can't negotiate good deals for you, can't make you money, your manager isn't doing you a whole lot of good. So we're going to look at the manager, we're going to look at all those other things. Plow into it, stay up. We've got a bunch of things in the unit to do, and I'll see you in a minute.